Hi everyone, welcome back to this another video on the new moon in Virgo. We are exploring the octaves of the moon and how dishonesty is no longer a requirement of safety. If you're new here, my name is Candice. I'm a psychic intuitive. I carry activation and healing codes as a conduit for source energy. And welcome. And if you are not new here, welcome back. I'm glad you came back, and we're going to lean into things. Now, this particular part of the frequency update that I do for every cycle of the moon can get a little cringy because it exposed through our behavior, we are exposed to our deeper fears and beliefs, and it gets a little uncomfortable, but just understand that we are innocent. Until we know better, we don't generally do better, right? We know better, we do better when we know, right? So take that in mind when I'm going through these octaves, because the lower octaves can be very cringy. They can be very painful to listen to. And in the energy of this moon, we'll want to criticize ourselves, but we're not here for that. We're here for knowledge. We're here to understand the deeper nuances of our behavior because it is an extension of the subconscious energy we're carrying, okay? And you might dip in and out of these octaves depending on what you're going through and who you're around and what environment you're in. So if it resonates, lean in. If it doesn't, don't take it on. We're going to start off with the lower octave, or the old octave is what I like to call it, because it's not really a hierarchy, and we're all trying to get to the same place for all intention. We've got the theme of the old octave is dishonesty. Whether people know they're being dishonest or it's just an automatic response because they're deeply conditioned and programmed, the old octave represents behaviors and energy that is specific to unconsciousness or prior to expansion and ascension and self-awareness and all those things, okay? So here are some of the behaviors that would indicate an old octave is being played into or experienced. Masking because you feel you have to put your best foot forward and you unconsciously don't think you naturally are good enough, right? Because if deep down, if you don't think you're good enough, you think you have to wear a mask for people. You have to put your best foot forward because they might not accept you as you are, okay? Blaming others for how you feel because it's easier than addressing how you feel. It's hard sometimes to go into those personal feelings, but our feelings are ours, even if someone brings those feelings out in us. Okay. Avoiding the deeper layers of yourself because you're afraid to lose control or feel like you're losing control or feel crazy. Pretending things don't hurt because if they do, you're admitting you lost and the bad guy wins. Any form of bypassing, spiritual bypassing, negating your humanness. And this is because there's a spiritual psychosis out there, okay? And not from a place of drumming up fear, but there's people who are not addressing the root cause of the issue as a form of bypassing, because it's scary to deal with those parts, right? You avoid them, but spirit also gives you a different way to avoid them. But bypassing in the sense of negating the subconscious exists, negating the past exists, whatever it is, we're really going within yourself and facing those cringy aspects has nothing to do with bringing shame and bringing that stuff to life. It has everything to do with recognizing where it's still being held in the body so it can be released. Unable to get to the root of your innocence because it might be too painful. That's ultimately what we're doing. We're looking at, like, when I think about stuff that I did as a kid and how much it was shamed, but we learn through experiences. Sometimes we have to mess around and find out, or F around and find, you know what I mean? Sometimes, it's not about shaming yourself. Anyways. Okay, we're getting to the root of our innocence, and the only way we can do that is acknowledge where we're holding ourselves hostage and we're not allowing ourselves to be innocent, okay? Viewing transparency as a weakness because it can be used against you. Forcing yourself on someone over someone's boundary due to a lack of self-awareness and needing to know or force a belief out of fear. Not being accountable for your behavior because being wrong insinuates that you are weak. not admitting when you're wrong and unable to apologize because it will expose a weakness, expecting others to be honest and vulnerable, but you're not able to do that for yourself or for them in return. Okay, these are all forms of dishonesty and the way we go about life trying to pretend when something isn't okay. Okay. Now, the bridge is an interesting place to be because there's a lot of cerebral awareness, but there's not a lot of embodiment or integration. I find a lot of the spiritual overlay is in this place, and I personally have been working through a lot of spiritual overlay myself and just being like where the beliefs that the spiritual community I've taken on, I can't even say they forced them on me. I took them on as if they're mine, but they also mess with my integrity and my ability to be myself because there's these whole other set of rules. So speaking to others about authenticity, but unable to show up in authenticity, still masking to look professional, for example. This is kind of where people can understand how much authenticity, vulnerability, and honesty matter in relationships to the point where they can share it with others and want to save others with it, but have not met it within themselves or with others. So you might get a lot of people talking about authenticity and talking about vulnerability because they understand the value of it, but they haven't actually done that within themselves. They haven't recognized that they're still dancing with their own shadow. They're still creating these rules from it. So you can explain vulnerability, but unable to actually be vulnerable. Okay, it's not safe to be vulnerable, but you can explain it to people. That's the bridge. Expects everyone else to be honest, but is unable to meet themselves in honesty. Denies the subconscious influence because it's too hard to face something so intangible or admit that it sometimes has control, as if you're out of control, right? It's the all or nothing, the black and white. Forcing narratives to seem like they are authentic, how it's seen versus how it's actually felt. So people can speak with conviction. They believe what they're saying, but they're not embodying it in the sense that it's actually felt by people. Okay. Knowing why someone is the way they are, but still blaming them for how you feel. Unable to process grief and relative emotions without analyzing them. Okay. Unable to accept the flawed aspects of yourself, so you bypass. And bypass is really interesting because bypass can also be where, it's like the flawed aspects of yourself are things that people and experiences have taught you are flawed. They're not actually flawed. So we bypass and we divert and we distract from actually just facing, okay, well, someone said I'm too much. Let's get into that. Let's actually face that. Let's challenge that energy and see if it's true within ourselves, right? But it's a scary place to go there. Unable to face the challenging energy within you, so you act like it doesn't exist and focus on trying to save others or judge others with the same energy. That's a sneaky one. You know that you are good enough, but you're still overcompensating in a lot of ways. It's the last one for that, okay? It's a tricky energy, but I truly believe it's leading us into a deeper sense of intimacy and genuine love and acceptance for ourselves so that we can actually extend that to other people truly, because you can't actually fully extend that. You might seem like it, but you can't actually fully extend that to other people if you haven't been able to do that with yourself. So the new octave is conscious embodiment. When you're triggered, you're willing to shift your focus to yourself. You're not trying to change anybody else. You're not trying to educate anybody else. You're not trying to tell them how they need to change, to be better, to be honest, to whatever. You're realizing, okay, hang on, I'm not being truly honest about how I feel. So let's deal with that. Let's go into that it's you with you. It's the funny thing is we've been so raised to believe that we have to explain ourselves to everyone else, but we don't. We just need to address what's within us right now. You can face where you're being dishonest with yourself about things. You're not afraid, or maybe you are afraid, but you do it anyways, to feel into the uncomfortable feelings like grief, guilt, shame, embarrassment, and see them for what they are and process them out, which is done in different ways, like challenging them, feeling them, accepting them, or rejecting them with the truth. Okay, you no longer overcompensate, or when you do, you catch it and reorient yourself. You realize that if you can face the difficult worries you have about your shortcomings, no one can rob you of your authenticity or authority ever again, because you've owned all the aspects of yourself. You realize the true gift in being able to look at all these falsehoods or flaws or detriments or whatever you've been made to feel insecure about and own them. There's such power in that. You realize that no one is perfect or has it all figured out, so you let yourself off the hook too. You realize that once you've accepted yourself, you can actually feel truly close to others and not be so guarded. You won't have to worry about people trying to take you out, because they can't, right? You realize that you have a greater impact on others and them on you, because you don't have a wall up. Your relationships are truly symbiotic because you allow yourself to receive and feel the love you have in them. And that's just it. Like, we shouldn't, this whole like psychological narrative of understanding how people are messed up so you can correct them so they can be better for you is not it. Like, when you're open and you're genuinely connected in the relationship, whatever the relationship is, it doesn't have to be romantic. It can be friendship, it can be family, it can be whatever. When you're actually dialed in, you don't have to do anything, because there's a mutual respect, there's a mutual consideration, there's a symbiosis that we, for all intents purposes, like to avoid, because if we let people get too close, they might hurt us. That's an old narrative, right? We're not going in that direction. We are leaning into the true essence of self-love and showing up in the world in that love, right? Showing up in that love where you let people love you and you let yourself love people. It's a very interesting place where we're going, but it's hard because the brain's in the way, the mind's in the way, the conditioning, the wounding, all of these things we use to bypass what could really, truly give us what we seek in connection with ourselves and with others. So I hope this has helped, and stay tuned, because I do have another video probably posted tomorrow, leaning into the astrology a little bit and the astrosomatics. And I hope this has helped, and take care.